Remember, before dialing, listen for dial tone.
It's not like he was proposing to bring back the rotary phone. But when John Stankey became AT&T's chief executive officer in 2020, he sensed the company had strayed a little too far from its roots.
There clearly was a need, based on kind of where the investor base was and where performance was, to take a step back and say it was time to maybe simplify the business and get it more focused.
America's oldest telecom had grown into a sprawling media and communications giant with the heaviest debt load of any non-financial company in the world. To turn around, it had to slim down.
And when the decision was made that we needed to focus, we started to ask ourselves, well, how do we compete? What are the things we need to do?
What he concluded very quickly is, if we want to be the very best connectivity company, we can't half-step it. We have to lean in. We have to invest a lot more.
Connectivity may not be as sexy as Hollywood, but it's been AT&T's core business since the days of Ma Bell. Stankey needed a partner to help rebuild that legacy on a foundation of new technology. He asked Pascal Desroches to be his CFO.
I said yes right away, but I recognized the enormity of the challenge ahead of us.
When you got here and you looked under the hood, were you surprised by the enormity of it? Were you sort of overwhelmed, or did you feel like, all right, I got this right away?
I did not think I had this all the way. You come in, you have a sense for what the issues are, but until you're actually in this seat and really learning firsthand the depth of the problem and the complexity of the problems, it's hard to fully appreciate.
He dug into them piece by piece and day by day.
One of the things that I think I do very well, I'm pretty good at not making problems bigger than they are. I'm a believer you try to make progress on big problems every day, and ultimately you'll look back and say, hey, you've come a long way.
AT&T has come a long way since Stankey and Desroches teamed up. It's gone from a lumbering, over-leveraged company to a darling of the AI revolution.
That first 18 months was trying to right-size the balance sheet and also making sure we were, at the same time, investing significantly in the businesses to get growth going again. A lot more of my time now is spent on working hand in hand with the operators and making sure I'm giving them resources that they need to execute on the strategic priorities.
Everything in our business is a team sport. It's an operating business. And I saw in Pascal somebody who'd be a really collaborative CFO, somebody who's going to work well with the team and make everybody kind of elevate.
Pascal Desroches brings much more than a head for numbers to the CFO role.
By always looking externally, it allows you to make sure that we are at our very best.
Call it a flair for connectivity.
I've been really blessed. I have such a great team.
He is incredibly patient and has a gift to be able to repeat and tell people things multiple times so that they can build their understanding.
We have honest discussions about what's going well, what's not going well, and we're really transparent about what we're trying to do. Early on, there were skeptics, but over time we were consistent in communicating, this is our North Star, this is what we're trying to do, this is why we think we are on the right track. Over time, we've built an enormous amount of trust, and right now we're seeing a lot of the benefits of it.
Over the last 5 years, AT&T has grown leaner by design, selling Warner Media and DirecTV, and using the proceeds to strengthen its 5G wireless and fiber broadband capacity. No company has invested more capital into U.S. connectivity infrastructure in this decade. Now it's poised to satisfy soaring demand for higher bandwidth and faster speeds.
We have our broadband or fiber product. We have our fixed wireless product, which is basically internet using our wireless network. And then you have your traditional wireless.
Why fiber?
It has the fastest speed. It has the lowest cost to maintain relative to your traditional copper, which is what we're upgrading.
The beauty of fiber it's symmetrical. It sends the same amount of data up as it sends down. And so it was betting on that kind of capable infrastructure was going to be necessary for the AI economy.
I think fiber future-proofs your network. It took about 20 years for the United States to see about half of its households built out with fiber. We're going to see that 50% go to 80% in about 5 years. We don't see any other technology that will set your network up better for long-term bandwidth consumption.
Fiber provides the lowest unit economic cost, and 5G provides the lowest economic cost for wireless. We are the only company that has scaled networks in both fiber and wireless. We think this is going to be a natural cost advantage, allowing us to drive not only the best economics for ourselves, but also drive the best value for consumers.
AT&T has a decisive edge in fiber subscribers over competitors Verizon and T-Mobile. It trails its rivals in wireless subscribers.
Right now with fiber, AT&T is a clear leader. When it comes to wireless, AT&T is not number one. Does that matter?
Well, look, I don't like being number 3 in anything. So let's start with that. I look at shared service revenue, and we've been making really good progress the last few years under John's leadership in growing our shared service revenue.
What we're geared toward is to get the highest share of wallet in the industry. And maybe some of it comes from fixed and maybe some of it from wireless. And we may not be the number 1 handset purveyor or the number 1 broadband purveyor. But the question is our total spend in the industry at the highest level? And that's really the strategy we're pursuing right now.
The bet on fiber is expected to pay off in double-digit growth on the consumer side. At the same time, Desroches is working to take AT&T's legacy copper network offline and get its cost off the books.
Right now we are running both a copper network and a fiber network. Our copper is declining, but there is a certain element of fixed costs associated with it, about $6 billion of total expenses. That will, over time, decline to zero. But it's going to take some time. Our goal is by the end of the decade, by the end of 2029, to be out of the copper business.
Copper is sort of an interesting substance because it's also a commodity. Are you selling it? Are you going into the commodity trade?
Believe it or not, we are decommissioning parts of our network, our copper network, we are selling it, and it's been, with the prices today, it's pretty attractive. We have a lot of copper still in the ground, and at these prices, we will make a return on those.
Every little bit helps for a CFO who plans to spend about $22 billion on CapEx in each of the next 3 years. While some companies pump the brakes on investment in an uncertain economy, that's not really an option for AT&T.
Let me break down our CapEx into the buckets that we spend. A big part of it is to expand our reach of fiber. You cannot wait until there is certainty to build that. These have long lead times that require you to have conviction about where demand is going. Another bucket is, as more people are on our network, we also have to add more coverage and capacity. It's almost like a variable expense. Third, we are modernizing our wireless network right now. Through the investments we're making, we are driving down our unit costs over time and providing more capacity to serve the demand that we think is coming.
Do you have less confidence in that 3-year plan now than when you first came out with it, given that some people are having trouble deciding how things are going to look in the next 3 days?
No, I really don't. I look at the nature of our business. It doesn't matter the economic cycle. It is a critical goods or service, and we have every confidence demand for it will remain. Will it be harder in a more challenged economic environment if that ends up being the case? Of course, but remember, we are investing at record levels. Slight moderations of that would allow us to deliver a lot more incremental cash to the bottom line. So I have every confidence we're going to be able to deliver our guidance.
That guidance includes returning $40 billion to shareholders through dividends and buybacks.
The last several years, we've invested significantly and haven't raised a dividend, so we thought an important next step was to deliver even more value through a stock buyback.
Why is now the time to do buybacks?
I think our stock is so incredibly attractively priced. And so by buying back more, we're giving more value to those who remain, and we are confident in our ability to continue to increase the price of our stock.
AT&T has the cash to reward shareholders, largely thanks to Desroches' management of its balance sheet. The company has steadily pared down its debt. Now it can focus on investing for growth and even lever back up for M&A.
Is the threshold higher to buy something that looks attractive? At this point, given that financing costs are so much higher, should you tap the debt markets again?
Financing costs are higher than they were the last 5 years, but I've been around business long enough to know that financing costs can be a lot higher than this. I'll give you an example. At the end of March, we went out to the market, issued 10-year notes. The effective cost of that was about 5.2% pre-tax. For a business our size and scale, when you add the tax benefits, it's still a very low cost of capital.
As the competition for connectivity intensifies, so has the appetite for deals among the industry's major players.
There are 3 national wireless carriers in the U.S., and that's really been created through consolidation. That's taken place over many years. As a wireless company, by definition, you compete in the whole country. In the fiber business, it's a regional, semi-national business. And so the more you can scale up your fiber business, the better you can compete with fixed wireless, obviously the incumbents in cable. And so that's been, I think, the motivating factor around a lot of this M&A activity.
In May 2025, AT&T joined the fray when it agreed to buy Lumen Technologies' consumer fiber business.
We're picking up about 4.5 million active homes that have been passed and connected in a footprint that can probably grow to close to 10 million homes that are attractive to invest in. We'll go from 50 million U.S. households passed with fiber by 2030 to 60 million U.S. households passed with fiber by 2030, and probably tops out around 70 million after 2030.
Pascal Desroches says that when future opportunities arise, he'll be ready and able to pursue them.
Some of those opportunities may be invest more in our business because we know that we're very familiar with the returns, but it's really having that flexibility that's so critically important, because now we can take advantage of opportunities without having to worry about our balance sheet.
Coming up, Pascal Desroches takes me to the room where connectivity happens.
Think about it as the brains of the network.
A visit to the central office next. This is Bloomberg. AT&T CFO Pascal Desroches doesn't shy away from a challenge. He's been meeting them all his life, starting as a young child when his family emigrated to the U.S. from Haiti.
I remember going to school and not knowing the language and having to work really hard to get the language and the lessons, and seeing my parents work really hard. Honestly, it drives me to this day, their sacrifices that they made to position us to come to this country.
Desroches started his career in accounting, rising to partner at KPMG. He also spent 2 years in government as a professional accounting fellow at the SEC. Shifting to the corporate world, he spent 15 years in finance roles at Time Warner, before landing his first CFO position at Turner Broadcasting. After a stint as CFO of Warner Media Group, he moved into his current job at AT&T.
I want to be as knowledgeable as possible. I'm constantly pushing myself to be uncomfortable.
What would you say you've taken from each of the experiences, from government, from accounting, from big corporations?
What you learn is this: it's always hard when you start. You've got to be patient with yourself. You learn resilience. If you go through a lot of different environments, a lot of different challenges, you build resilience. And that is probably the one thing I will say that has really helped me in my latest assignment, is the resilience that I've built up over the years. Yeah.
His resilience and zest for learning makes Pascal Desroches the ideal CFO for AT&T as it plots its future around 5G wireless and fiber. It's hard to understand the scale of this journey until you see it up close and in person at one of the connectivity hubs known as central offices.
Traffic is aggregated from the different neighborhoods and then onto what we call our core. Think about it as the brains of the network. It gives routing instructions in terms of where the traffic needs to go to based upon the command from your phone, your tablet, your computer.
We're talking next to another room that looks sort of like this, but a little dated, with all the copper infrastructure in it. That's all getting phased out, isn't it?
It is getting phased out, but there's still, I'd say, about 5% of our customers are still on copper-wired phones. Think landlines, think legacy DSL, and there are all sorts of regulatory requirements that limit our ability to get out of that technology quickly. So we're required to serve both the historical legacy copper technology as well as the fiber technology.
So when this ends up getting phased out, you have a lot of space left. What are you planning to do with it?
Once we decommission copper, what will happen is we're going to have excess space that we're going to probably be able to monetize and sell. We recently did a transaction where we sold 75 wire centers, and we kept access to our infrastructure, but there was still a lot of space in the building as well as adjacent land that we were able to sell at a really attractive price because we had scaled down our investment in copper.
Fiber doesn't just take up less space, it increases efficiency at every level.
For each one of these fiber cables, they snake back to a neighborhood. Each strand of fiber has several customers on it. It has a lot more capacity. Fiber consumes 70% less energy than copper. Similarly, the maintenance profile of fiber is so much better. We spend 35% less on maintaining fiber. So it's a win-win. It's a better product and less maintenance, less energy draw.
Right now, there are more than 4,500 central offices across the U.S. AT&T intends to cut that number down by the end of the decade, but the ones that remain will still play a critical role in the business.
It's really important that you have points of aggregation to ensure that you are touching as many endpoints across the country as possible. So yes, it's expensive to have them, but they also give you enormous reach across the country.
Coming up, how tariffs could hit the telecom sector. It's just one more thing Pascal Desroches is keeping his eye on.
Anything that can impact the consumer's ability to afford services, you always pay attention to.
This is Bloomberg. AT&T began this decade as a hybrid telecommunications and media company, saddled with debt and spinning its wheels. Since then, it's reduced its leverage and tightened its focus, concentrating its efforts on fiber and 5G wireless connectivity. But recently, tariff threats from the Trump administration have raised the specter of higher prices for mobile devices, which could create headwinds for service providers.
The telecom industry is less exposed to a lot of these tariff-related concerns and uncertainties that we see in other parts of the broader economy and certainly the public equity markets. Of course, no one's immune.
Anything that can impact the consumer's ability to afford services, you always pay attention to. As you know, the devices, we are a reseller of the devices. We provide a certain measure of subsidy, recognizing that that subsidy will attract consumers to our business. We don't expect that we're going to pick up an additional subsidy because there's a tariff on the phones.
We have been in a very record low handset upgrade environment in this country for a long time. People are keeping their phones 4 or 5 years now. What we worry about on the macro side is really the health of the consumer. This industry, broadly speaking, has about 500 million customer connections. I don't know if there's an industry that touches consumers with more scale than the US telecom industry. So to the extent we see the US consumer come under pressure, that's something we worry about, frankly, more than tariffs.
AT&T's leaders recognize there will be no room for complacency in the competition for customers.
I'm not satisfied as to where our company is down in markets that are a bit more price sensitive. We've had a long legacy of being a high quality provider, that we invest in our business for reliability. But if we really want to achieve our goal of being the share leader for spend, we are going to have to be more effective in price sensitive segments. They often say disruption comes from the bottom. So if you're not doing really well in some of those segments that are more price sensitive, more value oriented, you open yourself up for disruption at the top, and I don't want to be one of those companies where that happens.
Given how critical our service is, there's a certain threshold of reliability and quality that you need to have in order to really be in this business. We expect over the next 5 years for demand for connectivity to grow 80%. Because we are investing in the very best technologies, we can meet that demand with our existing infrastructure and be in a position to provide the very best value. So I think both are important. You need both a high quality network and the ability to drive a good value proposition for the consumer.
Pascal Desroches brings confidence grounded in deep experience to his job as AT&T's CFO. At a moment when the economy is full of noise, he's locked in on the signal. I asked him what he sees when he looks ahead.
What's the opportunity for AT&T in the next decade that most excites you?
Every technology innovation will be reliant upon great connectivity. And AT&T, our goal would be to be the very best connectivity company, and I think we're well on our way.
What's the challenge for AT&T in the next decade that keeps you up at night?
I think more and more we're going to have to be able to differentiate our products and services from that of our major peers. I think we have great products and services, so do they. I think we need to make step function changes to really help distance ourselves from the pack because we've been investing to make sure we are better positioned than anyone to do that. Whether it is personalization, whether it is trying to make sure that your connectivity is secure, whether it is to make sure that we are giving you the ability to have parental monitoring, all things that I think we are capable of, that we think it's just going to be time. And I'm really excited about it.
What's the skill set or area of knowledge that you would advise every aspiring CFO to develop?
Psychology. I say that half tongue in cheek. I think when you are a key member in allocating resources to the organization, you have to have a measure of emotional intelligence that I don't think is often talked about. The ability to be empathetic, to listen, to understand where someone's coming from. It's so incredibly important to build the trust that people will come to you with problems, that you know about problems early and you can help them solve them.
Complete this sentence.
Okay.
Don't worry. Complete this sentence. The hardest part of being a CFO is?
Managing the unexpected.
That's good. A friend calls you up and says, I've got great news. I just got promoted to CFO. After you say congratulations, what's the first piece of advice that you would give that person?
Make sure you have a good team underneath you. You are only as good as your team. So make sure you have the right level of skill sets and the people who are going to embrace the culture you're trying to build as well.
I'm Lisa Abramowitz. This is Bloomberg.